remote Uganda, two men from the Kakwa tribe forged a bond of brotherhood that seemed unbreakable. Idi Amin Dada, a towering figure with a boxer's build and charisma that could rally armies, had risen through the ranks of the Ugandan military like a gathering storm. Born around 1925 in Kiboko, near the borders of Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Amin was a product of his Kakwa heritage, a warrior people known for their fierce independence, intricate rituals, and unyielding sense of kinship. In Kakwa culture, clansmen were more than relatives. They were brothers in spirit, bound by bloodlines that forbade marriage within the clan and demanded absolute loyalty. To betray a clansman was to invite the wrath of ancestors, whose restless spirits could haunt the living with misfortune, illness, or even death. Enter Charles Arube, another Kakwa son, born into the same intricate web of tribal affiliations. Arube was no ordinary soldier. He was a career officer, intelligent and ambitious, who had climbed to the pinnacle of military power under Amin's regime. By 1972, Amin had appointed him Chief of Staff of the Uganda Army, a position that placed him at the heart of the nation's defense apparatus. The two men shared not just ethnicity but a history of mutual support. Amin, who had seized power in a bloody coup against President Milton Obote in January 1971, relied on fellow Kakwa like Arube to consolidate his rule. In those early days, Uganda buzzed with optimism. Amin promised to end corruption, expel foreign exploiters, and restore national pride. He paraded through Kampala in open-top jeeps, waving to crowds who cheered him as a liberator. Arube stood by his side, a symbol of tribal unity in a country fractured by ethnic divisions between the northern Nilotic groups like the Acholi and Langi and the southern Bantu peoples. But beneath the shadows of brotherhood, tension began to rise. Amin's rule quickly devolved into paranoia and brutality. Whispers of purges echoed through the barracks. Thousands of Obote loyalists from the Acholi and Langi tribes disappeared, their bodies dumped in the Nile or fed to crocodiles. Amin's secret police, the State Research Bureau, operated with impunity, torturing suspects in hidden chambers. Arube, as chief of staff, witnessed the excesses firsthand. He saw how Amin favored foreign mercenaries from Sudan and Libya, sidelining native Ugandan officers. Tensions simmered among the ranks, particularly among the Lugbara soldiers, who felt marginalized despite their northern origins. Arube himself grew disillusioned. As a Christian Kakwa, he clashed with Amin's increasingly erratic behavior, influenced by his conversion to Islam and alliances with Arab states. By early 1974, the bond strained to breaking point. Economic mismanagement had plunged Uganda into chaos. Inflation soared, shops emptied, and black markets thrived. Amin's expulsion of over 50,000 Asians in 1972, whom he accused of economic sabotage, had backfired spectacularly, crippling trade and industry. Arube, privy to the inner circle, heard Amin's rants about imaginary plots. The president claimed visions and dreams warned him of betrayals. In Kakwa lore, such omens were not to be ignored. Spirits communicated through the subconscious, demanding rituals to avert disaster. But Arube saw madness, not mysticism. He began plotting with like-minded officers, including Lieutenant Colonel Eliasani and captains like John Matarima and Isaac Baka. Their goal: overthrow Amin, purge the foreign elements from the army, and restore stability. The stage was set for betrayal. On March 23, 1974, as Kampala slumbered under a starry sky, Arube and his allies struck. They seized Malire Barracks, the nerve center of the military in the capital. Armored vehicles rumbled through the streets, blocking roads and capturing key installations like Radio Uganda and the television station. The plotters broadcast messages urging garrisons across the country to rise up, framing the coup as a defense against a fictitious foreign invasion. For a fleeting moment, success seemed within grasp. Rebels overran parts of the city, including Makinde military barracks, and targeted Amin's top enforcers, like Hussein Marella, head of the feared military police. Yet in the shadows of power, loyalty is a fragile illusion. Amin, always the survivor, had cultivated a network of spies. As the coup unfolded, he barricaded himself in his command post on Kololo Hill, a strategic vantage overlooking Kampala. Arube, leading a contingent of about 60 soldiers and armored personnel carriers, advanced on the hill. The assault was swift and deadly. The Presidential Guard, 30 strong, fell in a hail of gunfire. But impatience proved fatal. Believing Amin cornered, Arube charged ahead alone, bursting through the front door. Inside, Amin waited, pistol in hand. A single shot rang out, and Arube crumpled, dead before he hit the ground. The echo of that gunshot reverberated far beyond Kololo Hill, signaling the unraveling of the coup. Arube's men, hearing the commotion and a desperate shout, "I have killed one, come quickly to my rescue," hesitated. Loyalist forces, including the Marine Regiment under Taban Lepei, surged in reinforcements. By dawn on March 24th, the rebels surrendered, their dreams of a new Uganda shattered. Fighting sputtered on in pockets, claiming at least 100 lives, but the uprising, dubbed the Arube Mutiny, was crushed. In the aftermath, Amin's regime spun a web of propaganda. State radio announced Arube had committed suicide, a coward's end to mask the president's personal hand in his death. But the truth leaked out through whispers in the barracks and reports from survivors. Arube, the once trusted clansman, had been felled by Amin himself. For Amin, this was no mere military victory. It was a profound personal wound. Arube was not just a subordinate. He was kin, a brother in the Kakwa sense, sharing the same tribal blood that forbade interclan unions and demanded eternal fidelity. Betrayal from within the clan cut deepest, invoking ancient fears of spiritual retribution. Amin's grief manifested in bizarre ways. He ordered Arube's body transported to Malego Hospital mortuary in Kampala, the city's main medical facility, where Henry Kemba, then Minister of Health, oversaw operations. Kemba, a close observer of Amin's inner world, later recounted the scene in his memoir, A State of Blood. Amin arrived unannounced, demanding privacy. For 3 agonizing minutes, he remained alone with the corpse. What transpired in that cold room remains shrouded in mystery, but Kemba stated darkly. Amin, haunted by the betrayal, engaged in a ritual act involving Arube's blood. This wasn't mere hearsay, it was rooted in Kakwa customs. Among the Kakwa and similar warrior societies, slain enemies, or in this case, a treacherous kinsman, posed a spiritual threat. Their vengeful spirits could return to torment the victor, causing madness, failure, or death. To neutralize this, rituals involved tasting the enemy's blood, often by dipping a knife into the wound and touching it to the lips. This act symbolically absorbed the spirit's power, rendering it harmless. Amin, steeped in these beliefs despite his outward embrace of Islam, had confided to Kemba on multiple occasions about tasting human flesh, describing it as saltier than leopard meat. Such admissions hinted at deeper occult practices, blending tribal mysticism with his growing megalomania. Grief quickly turned to rage. Amin unleashed a purge that targeted not just the plotters but entire ethnic groups. Christian Lugbara soldiers suspected of sympathy were rounded up and executed. Some shot in firing squads, others kneecapped and left to bleed out, or thrown alive into the Nile for crocodiles to devour. Estimates suggest up to 500 perished in the immediate reprisals, with operations extending to West Nile, driving civilians across the border to Sudan. Yet, in a twist of pragmatism, Amin showed leniency to some. Eli Assani was released and appointed ambassador to the Soviet Union. Others, like Isaac Baka, were pardoned. He even reorganized the military, dismissing hated figures like Morella and Taweli, and appointing Mustafa Adrisi as the new chief of staff. But the scar of Arube's betrayal lingered. Amin divorced his Lugbara wife, Kayadroa, suspecting her involvement. 5 months later, she was found dismembered, her body parts sewn back in grotesque fashion as a warning. The coup exposed Amin's vulnerabilities, his reliance on tribal alliances and fear of internal dissent. It accelerated his descent into isolation, as he surrounded himself with foreign advisors and indulged in extravagant displays, such as declaring himself conqueror of the British Empire and King of Scotland. Years after the Arube uprising, the ghost of that bloody night refused to fade. Amin's regime, once hailed as a fresh start, became synonymous with terror. By 1979, when Tanzanian forces and Ugandan exiles toppled him, the death toll under his rule neared 300,000. Bodies piled in mass graves, and tales of cannibalism, fueled by Kemba's accounts, cemented Amin's image as the Butcher of Uganda. But the ritual with Arube's blood stood out as a chilling intersection of culture and cruelty. In Kakwa tradition, tasting a slain kinsman's blood was no casual act. It was a desperate bid to bind the spirit, preventing it from returning as a malevolent force. Amin, plagued by nightmares and hallucinations, believed such rituals essential. Kayemba noted how Amin visited morgues privately, perhaps performing similar rites on other victims. These practices, drawn from warrior lore where blood symbolized life force, aimed to harness the enemy's essence and neutralize threats from the afterlife. For Amin, Arube's spirit represented the ultimate betrayal. A clansman's ghost could curse not just the individual, but the entire lineage. Well, did the ritual work? History suggests otherwise. Amin's rule unraveled amid mounting paranoia. He accused invisible enemies, stockpiled weapons, and alienated allies. In 1975, he barely survived another coup attempt. By 1978, his invasion of Tanzania sealed his fate. Fleeing to Libya and then Saudi Arabia, Amin lived in exile until his death in 2003 from kidney failure. In interviews, he dismissed cannibalism rumors as Western propaganda, but the stories persisted, amplified by survivors like Kemba, who defected in 1977 and penned his exposé to alert the world. Arube's legacy endured. In 2013, the Uganda People's Defense Force exhumed his remains and reburied him with honors in Kiboko, acknowledging his role as a patriot who challenged tyranny. Today, Uganda remembers the era through museums and memorials, like the torture chambers turned into sites of reflection. In the end, the blood ritual may have been Amin's attempt to silence a ghost, but it only amplified the horrors. Spirits, in African lore, are not easily quelled. They linger in collective memory.